I started over.
I started with a vision.
I started strong.
I got a new job that pays well and that I actually enjoy in just 6 months.
I always wanted to go into healthcare, and Austin Community College has one of the best nursing programs in the nation.
I built my foundation at ACC, and now I'm a Longhorn at the University of Texas at Austin.
What's your next step? Austin Community College can help you get there.
Registration is going on now at austincc.edu. Start here, get there.
I just got hit by, felt like a Mack truck, and everything went black.
Just home from a brief stay in the hospital, Michael Packard still cannot believe he's alive.
And all I could feel was just muscle and skin all around me. I couldn't see anything, and I could feel the movement of the whale swimming, and I was in total shock.
Michael was diving off his lobster boat near Provincetown. He says he was in that whale's mouth for a good 20 to 30 seconds before the whale surfaced and spit him out.
And then all of a sudden I saw light and I was thrown from his mouth. He was shaking his head, trying to eject me out of his mouth.
And then all of a sudden I see Mike feet first coming out of the water like this.
Michael says he thought about his wife and 2 sons in the jaws of that whale, just thankful he's home with them again.
As soon as I landed in the water and was floating there in excruciating pain, I was like, oh my God, I'm alive.
Kelly Arnold Long. There you go. Yup. Moby Dick story. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So I was going to take the weekend off from live streaming, just chill out a little bit, settle in at the beach here because we're going to be here for the summer. And then, you had this lobster man, I guess. Do we call him a lobster man? He's doing his thing and he's doing some diving, and next thing you know, he ends up in the mouth of a humpback whale, and I'm like, holy crap! And I'm thinking BS right off the bat, but a lot of people saying, no, man, this really happened. So I decided that I would get my friend Chris, aka FishGuyPhotos, on the live stream to basically tell us what's up with this whale story and other things. Chris is a good friend of mine. He's done a bunch of the podcast episodes over the last couple of years. And more importantly, he's a marine biologist. So let's say hi to Chris. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Opie. What's going on, man?
For the people out there that don't know, which episodes of the podcast did you do?
Well, the first one was There She Blows, where we went whale watching. That was a lot of fun.
That was amazing.
That was a great day. We went hunting with the screen is backwards here, but we went hunting with my hawk, Emmy.
Yep.
We ate squirrel soup.
Yep.
We had venison and rabbit and all sorts of drinking beers, and it was good stuff. And we've had a couple like news related things that we've popped up, but the hunting with Emmy was probably the big one there.
I loved that, and we did start with whale watching, and I was mad at you that day because I wanted to get a lot closer to the whales, and now with this story out of Cape Cod, I'm like, oh, now I get it. Now I know why you don't go too close to the whales, because you never know when they're going to breach to feed, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've had times where I'm just, that's the thing, when you find the whales, you got to shut the engine off, put it in neutral. You don't want to shut the engine because you want them to at least still hear the boat. I've had a couple times where I'm just sitting and they're down, and and depending on what they're doing, they could be down for a minute or two, or they could be down for 20 minutes. So
right.
Sometimes they come up all of a sudden a little bit close, a little bit puckery moment. You know what I mean? And
I got to interrupt for a second because I want to put this comment on the big screen. Mike Volka. Oh, we got the Moby Dick. Sorry, I'm just a little kid at heart. I apologize. So, break down the story in Cape Cod, man. What do you know about this? You got a lobster man? Are they called lobster mans?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, baymen. From my experience, all the commercial fishermen that I know, they fish for everything depending on what the season is. So, but bayman is a great way to put it because, I'm sure he digs clams and he probably traps fish and all sorts of stuff. But from what I was able to read and hear on the news, he was diving for lobsters, scuba diving, and I've done that myself here on the island. And It's it's tricky because you're going down deep. The water's cold, especially for lobsters. You don't want to get bit by a lobster. A good sized lobster will break your finger. So it's a little bit of a challenge to begin with. It sounded like there was a lot of bait fish in the area, what they call sandlands, which is locally we call them sand eels. Just this skinny fish that they feed on. He got swallowed. They said swallowed, and that's kind of misleading because a whale can't swallow something that large anyway. They're eating. They can only, their throat is not big enough. But
so it's impossible for a human to be in the stomach of a whale whole, right?
Yeah. I mean, so you're familiar with the bunker, the Atlantic menhaden, that bait fish that washes up.
Sure.
Or we see what we saw that day whale watching. That's about as big of a food item they can swallow. Their throat's just not big enough. They got an enormous mouth, but it's not enough to swallow a person whole. So when I first read the story, I was like, oh, he's in the stomach. No, it's so humpback whales, they don't have teeth. They have they have these thing called baleen plates. So it's this long. It's the same material your fingernails are made out of, but it's these long plates that hang down from the roof of their mouth that on the inside are furry, and they got slots. So what will happen is when they open up their enormous mouth, they got grooves in their throat to expand their throat outwards. So they take in a large volume of water, they close their mouth, and they squeeze the water out through those hairs, which then fish, shrimp, whatever they're eating gets stuck on, and then they wipe it down with their tongue and they swallow it. So yes, could a person fit in a whale's mouth? Most definitely.
I guess the whale realized I can't swallow this thing, so I got to spit it out. That's the only reason that guy survived.
He's extremely lucky too because of the situation. So he was catching lobsters, which are on the bottom. So he probably wasn't in crazy deep water. I don't think they said anywhere, but he's probably less than 60 feet of water. Let's put it that way. And but let's say if he was free diving, if this was a different scenario and he was in a mile of water, and he was free diving at the surface, and this happened to a whale, and the whale dove a mile down, he's dead just from the pressure. So luckily, the whale wasn't able to swim any deeper because he's at the bottom already picking up these lobsters. So it could have been a lot worse, and the fact that it spit him out, and he didn't lose his regulator, he was able to still breathe. And, I think it said he was in there for 30 to 40 seconds. I mean, that could.
Oh my God. Can you imagine that?
No.
I've seen the interviews, and he basically talks about like, I just thought that was it. This is how my life ends. But man, if there's something else after this life, you got a hell of a story.
Well, I'd rather go that way than the expressway.
Yeah, of course. I believe humpback whales don't have teeth, right?
Yeah, so there's two types. They break whales into two parts. There's baleen whales and there's toothed whales. So, like the largest of the toothed whales would be the sperm whale. And they have fairly large teeth. Killer whales have teeth. Dolphin have teeth. Things like that. But humpbacks, fin whales, minke whales, right whales, they all have baleen. So, that's just how they feed. And and again, some of them filter really small krill from the water. They get some of the largest animals in the world. The blue whale, the largest animal on the planet, has baleen, and it feeds the same way.
Have you ever seen the blue whale at the Museum of Natural History?
I did. It wasn't hard to miss. Unlike
you listen to the podcast.
Oh, it's right there. You can't miss it. I mean, I remember going there when I was a kid too.
I love that story. Me and Mike Bichetti, we went to the Museum of Natural History to roar at dinosaurs, and then I wanted to show them the blue whale. We walk in the room. Here's the big reveal, and that dummy goes, "Where is it? You can't miss the thing. It's hanging from the ceiling, and it's life size." Yeah,
it's 100 feet long. It's crazy, and that's bigger than dinosaurs. I mean, it's been the largest living animal on this planet.
Yeah. Speaking of whales, we still haven't talked about our experience. So I'm at this beach house. I'm looking at this ocean outside my window, and because of you, now I see whales all the time. I just assumed you had to be in a boat miles out, and you're like, "Hey, dummy, just look. You got oceanfront property. In the morning when you're having coffee, just look out over the horizon about quarter mile, half mile out. You're going to see their blow." And ever since you told me that, I see whales all the time. It seems like the whale population in general has come back to Long Island.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those success stories. So like humpback whales, especially, they were hunted almost to extinction. And Long Island was a big whaling port. So out by Montauk and places like that were whaling ports. So Sag Harbor, Cold Spring Harbor, and they hunted just about to extinction. But now, due to protections and cleaning up the environment. These animals have made a huge comeback. So, people are always like, "Oh, it's so rare to see these." Well, yeah, for us because we're not there. But there's nobody alive that's been alive long enough to know the good old days. So these whales have made a huge comeback. In fact, the humpback is not even endangered or threatened in the Atlantic Ocean, that's
pretty amazing.
Amazing to think about.
I'm looking out over the ocean. How long ago was that? That was like
was back in March, I believe.
Oh, that was March already. That was 3 months already.
It was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was March because that was the thing when you called me and told me you saw whales. I was like, it's way too early to be seeing humpbacks.
Yeah,
the water's just too cold. The food for them is not here, so it was just odd that when you called me, I was like, "Are you sure?"
let me set it up. So I'm looking at the ocean and I see whales. I'm like, all right, I've seen this a million times, but then usually they're out of sight. But these two whales, it looked like a mother and a calf. They were just hanging out outside my house for well over a half hour or so, which I've never seen that before. So I knew my little knowledge that I have, I was like, this is different. So I called Chris, aka FishGuyPhotos, on all his social media. He's got great videos of all sorts of ocean stuff. And I go, Chris, man, these two whales, they're just chilling out in front of my house. And it feels a little different to me. And I could barely get that sentence out. You're like, I'll be right there.
Then on the way, I remember driving there. You're like, "There's definitely two." And I'm like, that kind of got me because we see the humpbacks together, but not always. And that's what I was like. All right, I got to go check this out. And I got there as quickly as I could. It was.
You were racing to get to my house, and I was giving you reports like, "Nah, man, they're still here." And you're like, "Oh my god!"
And the damn traffic. I was like, "Come on," because there's only one road. It's one road out there, And I'm like,
and then you were telling me if they're what I think they are, this is unbelievable. This is really rare. So long story short, you get to my house, you run out, and you're like, oh my God, I think these are right whales. And then you put your ridiculously cool drone in the air. Your drone is sick, dude. That's how you get a lot of great video for your YouTube channel, FishGuyPhotos. And then, sure enough, you got the drone. Within reason, you were being respectful because.
So that was the thing. So like, I had the feeling that they were right whales, but I couldn't tell from the beach. So I put the drone up.
Yeah.
When I got out there. I mean, you remember right away. My jaw hit the ground. It's like, holy, these are right whales. I'm like, and right away, there's all these things that start spinning in my head because again, I am a marine biologist. I work with people that study these whales, and I'm like, I got to stay away from these whales because like with the humpback, you can't get within 150 yards, but with right whales, you can't get within 500 yards.
Really?
You can't have your boat on. I mean, there's so many rules because they're so rare.
Right.
So right away, I went into freak out mode. Like, all right, I can't get too close because I don't want to get in trouble for this because they'll find you. It's a federally protected animal, but they're so rare. I felt necessary to document it because again, I work with people that work with these animals, and every sighting of these whales was extremely important. I mean, there's the last survey they did. They estimated there was 366 of these whales left in the world,
and two just happened to be outside my house. And I know a marine biologist. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that, man?
No, and what was even crazier was that, like you were right, it was a mother and a calf. That's what was just like mind blowing because you could definitely see the size difference. And the reason that's so crazy is because in the last couple of years they've only had a handful of calves, and they've actually lost more whales than they give birth. This year, though, they had 17 births.
Oh wow!
And this whale was first spotted off of Georgia. That's when they first realized that she had. So they spend their summer off of Florida.
Yeah.
And what happens is they migrate north in the spring and they go to Cape Cod Bay, and they congregate in Cape Cod Bay and also a little bit further north for the summer because they feed on krill and other plankton.
They only give birth every 2 years or something?
Every couple of years. I think it's every
years.
I think it's every third year. Again, don't quote me on that one, but I think it's 3, maybe 4 years.
And then you called another expert that came to my house. We were having a nice little get together outside.
That was funny too. So that was Rob DiGiovanni, who works for AMC's Atlantic Marine Coastal Society.
At the time we saw those two right whales outside my house, there were about 366 in the world. That number might be a little higher with those new births.
Well, yeah. So they had 17, and unfortunately, already one of them is dead that I know of.
Really?
Shortly after, It got hit by a boat in Florida, and the boat reported it because it hit something hard. It actually destroyed the boat. They found the calf wash up, and then they put up airplanes looking for the mom. And they found the mom, and she had new prop marks on her. So this person hit both of the whales. And so I mean, they had 17, and they already lost at least one. I haven't gotten any updates recently, but it's everyone is because I think it was like the past 3 or 4 years they only had like 4 or 5 calves that they document, and because they stay so close to shore and they're up shallow, it's fairly easy to monitor them. I mean, you could fly the coast and do a grid and see them. So is it exactly 366? They might have missed 1 or 2 here.
Well, my point is, and you kind of beat me to it. It was really sad listening to you guys talk about the right whales because you guys have all that experience, and you basically told me that it's just a matter of time before the right whale is extinct. There's 360 some odd whales in the world right now, but unless we guard these things, which would cost a lot of money and a lot of time, you said there's just too much boat traffic, and how they swim, they're always coming in contact with boaters, right?
And it's not just boats. It's funny how this conversation started. We started talking about lobstering. A lot of these whales actually die from lobster traps.
No kidding.
Yeah, they get wrapped in the ropes.
Oh, wow.
So what ends up happening is they get the rope wrapped around them. It digs in. It causes infection, slows them down. They can't feed. They end up starving to death. So between fishing like lobster pots and boat strikes, I mean, I don't know if we'll see a success story with like we do with Humpback, like we did with the Humpback whale. It's so few animals that takes so long to grow. In fact, the whale that we spotted, they knew who her mom was, and her mom had 4 calves. That was her first known calf now. So, so they've got a family tree on a lot of these whales, but still, I mean, if it's going to take another 10 or 15 years before this calf is capable of reproducing, and that's if it's a female, if it's a male, that's all right, that's great, but it's not going to really help with the population as much.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad.
That's so tragic. And why were they named the right whales? I mean, there was a time, obviously, they were all over the fucking place.
It was the right whale to hunt. So they swim close to shore. So you didn't need a big vessel to go out to get them. You could spot them from your beach house, ring a bell, and all the local whalers would get in their boats, row out there, harpoon it, kill it, and when it was dead, it would float.
Yeah.
So imagine now towing a 50-ton whale that sinks. Well, now it floats, and so it makes it easy to tow it back to the beach to process it. And they yielded a lot of blubber. So so instead of oil, we'd use blubber to light lanterns and whatnot. And those baleen plates I was talking about earlier on a right whale, they could be 12 feet long.
Oh, wow.
So, and they would use them for things that we use plastic for today. So like car bumpers, women's corsets, things like that. So they utilize the whole animal. But again, if this is an animal, it's taken forever to grow. I mean, they'll live over 70 to 100 years, and that could be longer. They're just based on what they know now. It's hard for an animal to reproduce and keep up.
But they use them for car bumpers?
Yeah, because back then they didn't make plastic. So, that little bumper, they'd use it for that. They would use them for horse whips, like the cane of a horse whip. They use it for canes. I mean, all sorts of things that you think plastic would be used today. Baleen was used. And because they were 12 feet long, that's like a big piece of lumber. Well,
Is there part of the whale that makes penises hard, like other animals out there in the wild?
I don't think back then people really were too concerned about that part of life. I think it was, as far as I know, I don't believe they use whales for any aphrodisiacs. But again, I am not an expert on that area, so that could be the case.
The stupid rhinos. I mean, I'm a fan of the rhinos, but the stupid rhinos. Someone decided that you grind down the horn and it gets your dick hard. And that's why we're down to, I think, 1, maybe 2.
You know how many animals have gone extinct for that very reason?
Right.
I mean,
insane.
It's crazy. Just go take a little blue pill.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, like I said, at least with the whales, though, the things that they used the whales for were everyday things,
I like this Kelly Arnold long. She goes, "Oh, if you had to." Of course I had to. I get frustrated by some of these other countries that aren't like with modern times, and they still think killing these majestic animals will get you penis hard. It's like, stop already. We got the chemistry now. You don't have to kill the rhino to grind down the horn to get a virgin penis.
But even crazier things. So I mean, all right. So like, let's like a horn. It's like shows power and size and stuff. What about the gallbladder of a black bear? I mean, that also they kill black bears just for their gallbladder.
For what reason?
For the same reason. So it's an aphrodisiac. So it's who came up with that? Like, what does the gallbladder do? You know, But unfortunately, we've screwed up and lost a lot of animals for just stupid shit like that. You know,
I'm a big fan of the Oculus. I'm doing some of that VR, man, and I saw a quick video. It was intense. Where I think it's the white rhino, right? That's just about extinct.
Believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So in Africa, they had this white rhino, and they had I'm trying to remember how many soldiers, at least 2, maybe more. Their whole job was to just guard this white rhino from poachers 24 hours a day. And this Oculus quick VR video of it was so intense because you could just feel that at any moment some poacher's still going to give it a shot because that damn horn is worth a lot of money. And they actually saw off the horns, so the poachers would leave them alone. But my thought was always that there's always something left, right? And there's schnozola there. That I think they're still killing them, even though they cut off most of the horn.
That's the other thing too. A lot of countries are trying to show how valuable these animals are alive. Sometimes, and I'm not trying to defend anybody, but the people that are often doing this, they don't care about the end product. They're just maybe feeding their family at that point.
Right. So
a lot of countries are trying to show, like, look, keep that rhino alive, and people will come and pay you to see it.
Of course.
And that's happening in a lot of different countries, not only with rhinos, but sharks and, whales. I mean, look at whale, we used to kill whales, but now whale watching is a giant industry.
Massive. But man, that right whale sighting, and then you wrote it up, and it was a big deal in the marine biology community, man.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone who wants to read about that was in the Suffolk Times Review. If you just kind of Google right whales and FishGuyPhotos, it'll pop up, But
dude, I pumped you up, and then you go, it was in the Suffolk Times. Like, just say, yeah, man, it went all over the world.
Well, no, I mean, no.
I was trying to help you out. You're like, yeah, man, I'm a big star now. It's printed in the Suffolk Times.
That's online. Everybody in the world read it. No, actually,
that paper
it was in the New York Times.
Available on half of Long Island. I was trying to help you out.
No, it did get a lot of reach, though. I was more so than most of my articles recently have gotten. It was a freaking cool experience, man.
Dude, I've had some great experiences with you. I gotta be honest, man. I never went whale watching before we became friends. That was amazing. I never watched a red-tailed hawk fucking hunt. That was insane. We got to do that again in the fall.
That we will definitely do. But the next thing I'm going to get you to do is, so one of the side projects I work on is I'm part of the Shark Research and Education Program for the South Fork Museum of Natural History. And we tag white sharks and other species of sharks. And in the last 5 years, we've tagged 35 or 36 white sharks right here on Long Island. So nice. I want to get you out on a boat, catch a shark, help us tag it.
Hell yeah.
About it, whether we do it live or we come back and just kind of
we'll do it live like we did the whale watching.
Yeah, I mean that'll be the next thing. We'll put a shark in your hands and get you to do all the science.
Beautiful. I'm all about it, man. You've allowed me to go whoa a lot in the last couple of years. Whoa!
There's a lot of cool stuff, man. I mean, it's funny. Like even when I'm listening to the podcast when you're at the beach, I don't get on the live streams too often because I'm usually working when they're on. But when I play them back, and I'm like, you're like, oh, that stupid bird. I'm like, that's a song sparrow. Just stop. Like I could hear the birds call, and I'm like, oh my god. I gotta text him and tell him that's a different bird. It's not, it's not a stupid sparrow. It's a song sparrow.
Well, who cares? What does that mean? A song sparrow.
There are a lot of birders that'll probably get mad at me because I call it song sparrow, and I probably got that wrong. But to birders, which is like the biggest hobby in the world, birders are a different group.
Oh, I hate bird watchers. So I do loops in Central Park, right? And you see those idiots walking around with their binoculars like, oh, I think that's a song sparrow. Where? And they're a bunch of farmers, and then they got little books like, "Oh, I can finally check off that I saw a song sparrow. Who cares? Get a life."
I'm gonna turn you into a birder, Opie. I'm gonna watch it. The next time we give it a year, and you're gonna be talking about birds. Wait a second. You started gardening, right?
Hell yeah!
You were talking about how you were getting older and you're doing gardening and stuff. Now you're going to be a bird watcher. I'm going to get you a pair of binoculars.
No way, man. Because half the time when I see them in Central Park, and supposedly Central Park has an insane variety of birds for whatever reason, these people lose their mind. But then I hear half of them go, "Where? I don't see it." And half the time they're trying to find this thing with their stupid binoculars.
So Central Park is a pretty cool spot if you're into birding. It's because you know what? It's a giant metropolitan, and you got this runway of green where birds will stop to rest. This winter there was a snowy owl in Central Park for a couple weeks.
Ooh!
I'm going to change your mind. You'll see.
You know what? That I should have saved that for something else because a snowy owl in Central Park. I'll give you that.
That's a pretty cool, badass bird right there.
I'll give you that. It's better than seeing all the rats, which there's so many more rats in Central Park. Oh my goodness! And I've seen raccoons in Central Park, possums, rats, squirrels, of course. These stupid birds and the bird watchers. But I still haven't seen the coyotes that come down through the tracks. That sounds impossible to me. But every once in a while in Central Park, there's a coyote sighting in the middle of this giant city, but then again, there are parts of Central Park where you would swear you're in the complete wilderness way outside of the city. But they come down through the Amtrak tunnels from up north, and they end up in Central Park every once in a while.
There's a population that some of my colleagues are studying in Nassau County. There's a population. They got a den. They've had pups, and it's just a matter of time before they're all over the island. Also, I mean, it's
coyotes.
Yeah. There's even reports of them out by you. You know, not as far out, but like in Bridgehampton, there's been reports of coyotes. It's one of those animals that's able to live amongst us, and there's plenty of food, and they were here historically. It's just a matter of time before they come back.
Well, I don't mind the coyotes because they take away a lot of the yip-yap dogs.
They also get rid of a lot of deer too. That's kind of the key.
Do they?
Yeah, I mean, you know, they'll eat fawns. So, you know, with ticks and all the Lyme disease and all that other nonsense we got to deal with, the more predators that we have eating deer to keep the population in at a healthy level would be welcome.
Yeah. Well, we got the giant osprey.
Streaming only on Peacock.
John Wayne Gacy killed 32.
Straight from the killer's mouth.
They want you to believe that I alone committed these murders.
The new gripping 6-part documentary series, John Wayne Gacy, Devil in Disguise. All episodes streaming now, only on Peacock.
Ospreys out here on Long Island. Those are pretty. There doesn't seem to be a lot of those.
There's a lot of. They've made a giant comeback. I mean, in the 60s.
What is an osprey? I mean, their wingspan is pretty.
It's a hawk. They'll call them a fish hawk. It's a type of hawk. It is a bird of prey, but that's a bird that got wiped out due to DDT. So 60s and 70s, there were no osprey. They were gone. DDT was a chemical they used for killing mosquitoes, and it was in the food chain. And the ultimate goal with end point with an osprey was it would make their eggshells so thin that when they would sit on them, they'd crush them and kill them.
Oh, I remember that story.
So that happened for them. Peregrine falcons, bald eagles, pelicans, vultures.
Yeah.
But they banned DDT in the 70s. They've made a huge comeback. Now you see them quite a bit, you know, on telephone poles, building nests and things.
Yeah. All right. I got one thing about birds I like now that we've been talking about them for a little bit. So when I'm surf casting for my striped bass, every once in a while you'll see a bird coming back from the ocean, and they'll have fish in their talons or claws or whatever the hell, they're little bird feeties that sometimes are like this big, and the bird and the fish is like, what the fuck? And it's trying to swim and realize it's way up in the air and it's no longer in the ocean. Can you imagine being that fish? You're minding your own business, and next thing you know, you're 100, 200 yards in the air trying to swim as this thing has a death grip on you as it brings it back to its nest.
Well, that's why on the whale watch trip I talked about bunker. You know, this is a fish that everything eats. You know, so whales swallow them whole. Dolphins eat them. Bluefish bite them in half. And then you get an osprey that out of nowhere crashes in the water, sticks 8 talons into your back. And as you said, flies through the air. You're like, oh, crap, what's going on? They bring you to a pole. They then pluck your eyes out first. Then they start pulling on your gills. Oh, yeah, that's a horrible way to go.
Oh, they don't play, huh?
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right, I got another bird thing. So when I'm on my deck, this is the weirdest thing. So all the houses obviously are lined up. And at the end of the day, the seagulls, maybe you could explain this, but they use the top of the houses like it's a highway. And as the sun's going down, especially, there'll be seagull traffic just flying from, over all the houses, and they're heading west as the sun is setting. And man, if they see me on the deck for whatever reason, they blast me with shit. Do you know anything about that? It has happened too many times where I'm like, these motherfuckers are doing this on purpose.
Hey, if you were a bird and you could drop shit on somebody as you fly by, wouldn't you?
Oh, 100%.
That's your answer. That's all. Like, watch this. Watch. Hey, Frank, watch what we do to Opie. Watch this. Right?
100% I would do that. You know me well. You know me well. But man, watching those birds coming back from the ocean with a fish and the talons, and this fish is like, what the fuck? Let me live. Oh, I got another bird thing.
You told me you didn't like birds and all these little bird things. Yeah.
I was driving down a lazy country road way out here, going back to the beach. And next thing I know, I hear a bang on the side of my car. I get out to investigate. There's a huge dent in the side of my, at the time, brand new truck. And then I look around. A fucking seagull used my truck to try to break a clam, dropping them from the sky. And then if you're looking around, you'll see that these seagulls will use parking lots and roads all the time to drop their prey and try to get to the goodness inside the shells and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
this thing dropped a giant clam and it hit the side of my car. I thought kids were throwing rocks at me.
They're not dumb, and if you sit there and you watch them, if they drop it and it doesn't break, the next time they bring it up, they'll go higher. And if it doesn't break, they'll go higher. They know about gravity. They'll get it to work. And the other thing too with the gulls, often people give them an idea of the rap of being scavengers and rats with wings eating garbage. You know how many times in the wintertime especially I've seen them kill ducks to eat?
Really?
They'll pounce on them, they'll drown them, and they'll pull them up on land to eat them.
Wow. Yeah, seagulls are evil, man. They're scavengers for real.
They're out there year round. They got to find food, so they do whatever they can. We're not out there in the summer, wintertime, putting out French fries and dough balls and stuff.
I got another one I just remembered. So, we fish a lot, and we always have some kind of either beers or snacks, whatever, and a lot of stuff in plastic bags. And they'll take the whole plastic bag, and then they'll figure out what it is later, and and eat it or whatever. One seagull, one day, I had my fucking phone in a plastic bag so it wouldn't get wet, right? This thing took it, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. But long story short, about, I don't know, not that far, he dropped it, realizing maybe it was too heavy to bring back. I don't know, but I lucked out so bad. But this thing took my cell phone in this plastic bag away and dropped it, thank God.
They're not dumb. I've lost fish that I've caught, leaving them unguarded on the dock or something, and they and they're definitely not dumb. But hey, without the birds, you wouldn't know where the fish are either. How many times all of a sudden you see that flock of birds going nuts, and you know exactly what's going on underneath this bass fish. When
you do a lot of surf casting, every once in a while these giant waves will just knock a fish out of the ocean. So one day. That very thing happened. A sea robin, which we all hate.
I love the sea robins.
Well, right, you gave me the sea robin ceviche, and it was actually really tasty. But because everyone walks by me and they're like, those things are good to eat. I'm like, good for you. Once you here, I'll get you 10. You bring them home and try to figure out how to eat these dumb things. They look bizarre, like they come from another planet because they kind of walk on the bottom of the ocean. They can also swim, and then they got big, giant, wings on them is the only way I can explain it. So this this sea robin gets knocked out of the water by a giant wave. The waves were huge out here one day. And so I'm like, God. And I hate sea robins, but I'm also like, I care about nature and things. So I felt like I had to get it back into the ocean. So I kind of used my foot because that they got the what are they that will just poke you
they got spines on their gills in the back.
They got spines all over the place. So it's not a fish that you can easily pick up, although you can pick it up through its mouth, I guess, which I do, or squeeze it a little bit around the mouth. Too much information, I understand. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to carefully try to kick it back into the ocean without hurting it. And I got it into the ocean, but then the next wave pushed it back out. And then I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm walking toward this thing to try to get it back into the ocean. And a seagull, I saw the shadow behind me. I'm like, what the hell was that? This thing swooped in with its wings wide open, right over my head, and got to the damn thing before me. And within seconds, it took that beak of theirs and just pecked away at the sea robin's skull. And within seconds, the thing was dead and it was feasting. I'm like, oh my God, nature's a mother effer.
Eat or be eaten, man. It's eat or be eaten, man. There's always something bigger that's going to eat you. You know.
Well, that's what me and Carl used to joke about, because I'll get these people. They don't even realize I truly am in general. I lean toward being an environmentalist, and I don't really keep a lot of the fish I catch. Most of them go back. I have a few keepers every year, and we'll eat those. But so you always have somebody walking by that wants to give you shit for fishing and whatnot. And but I try to throw most of them back, man. So, but with Carl, I'm like, I want to tell these people that when you pull a fish out of the ocean, they get a break in their life, because the whole time they're in the ocean, something's trying to eat them. I mean, the stress these damn fish must feel on a regular basis, because they don't get a minute of rest. There's always something that's trying to eat them. So my theory is, when we pull them out of the water, they basically want to thank us, like, thanks for the rest before I go back into that hellhole that is the ocean.
You're right. Even the big sharks have something that's bigger than them that's trying to eat them. You never get a rest. I mean, that's in nature in general, man. There's always something that's gonna try to eat you.
Oh, you got to tell me the name of the fish, that goofy fish that doesn't look like it could take care of itself. The
mola.
Yeah, the mola, where the guys with that heavy Boston accent were like, "Hey, it's a baby whale," and they wanted to kill it, they wanted to save it, they didn't know what the fuck to do with this damn thing. And you said that there's a lot of them out here on Long Island.
I haven't seen one this year, but the weather's been crap. I haven't been able to get out on my boat that much, because it's always, as you know, you live down, it's windy every damn day this year. So but yeah, they get 1,000 pounds and eat jellyfish. I mean, they're completely harmless, but like you said, it doesn't look like this animal should survive. It just
what's their deal? Why are they like that? They're incredibly slow. They're at the surface most of the time. They look like, they look a little funny, to be honest with you.
But as crazy as they look and how slow they are, they still breach. They jump 3 feet out of the water, completely out of the water. You know? So even a dumb-looking fish like this still has enough momentum to get its body going to fly out of the water.
Oh, there was another thing that I got to do because of you, and that was to pet an octopus.
I forgot about that. That was pretty freaking cool.
And that octopus has to be dead because they don't – I didn't know, but octopuses, they don't last long, man. They only last like a year and a half.
Yeah, the local species that we get around here about a year and a half. So from birth to death, they spawn, reproduce, give birth once, and that's it. The giant Pacific that you maybe see in the aquarium, they're like 3 years. Blue ring octopus you see on like Nat Geo, they're like 6 months. That's about it. So yeah, short.
Their whole life is 6 months.
Yeah,
and they're highly intelligent. So their whole life, they're just thinking to themselves, I'm gonna die.
Dude, if they could live longer, they'd take over the world, man. They are super intelligent. It's crazy how I've had them give them a jar with food in it, and they figure it out within a couple days on how to open the jar, and they get faster and faster every time you give it to them.
Of course, they figure it out, and they get faster and faster because to them that was 10 years of their life trying to figure that shit out.
Octopus years.
That is so tragic if you think about it. Everyone says, all the experts say that they're highly intelligent, but they have a very, very short life.
Yeah. And, that's how they're successful, though. To to be able to be that smart and figure out, to make it a year, and because a lot of animals don't make it. I mean, shit, even an octopus, when they give, when their eggs hatch, there's thousands of octopus. They don't all survive, so, the fact that they're that intelligent,
Here, answer John McHugh's question. Opie, can you pin a link of where we could see Chris speak? I didn't catch the beginning.
The best thing to do is follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I hate Twitter, but I'm there. YouTube, Vimeo. I'm even on TikTok. But
what are you doing on TikTok?
I'm on it. I've had a few Emmy hits that have gotten me over 1 million views. I'm pretty excited about it.
Really?
Yeah.
What videos?
I don't get the logarithms and how they do stuff, but when I'm out hunting with Emmy, I always would finish with her flying to my fist and I put them on. And I have a bunch of them. And one, the last time I checked, was like 1.5 million views. So that was pretty sweet.
Wow. I'm going to post my Emmy, the red-tailed hawk, flying into my fist on TikTok.
I took Matt.
By the way, TikTok has become dirty. I haven't been on TikTok in a while, and I was fortunate enough that last thunderstorm that rolled through New York City, I got 1 million lightning strikes on camera. So I did a quick montage, and I threw it on my TikTok. I think I'm Opie Radio on TikTok as well, whatever. But my account was pretty much dead for the last year. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't even checking TikTok. I went on there. Oh my God! Every woman is like braless now. And they're making believe like, we're just going along with the trend. I'm like, no, you're not. You're using your body to try to get 1 million fucking views on your video. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying that they have upped their game on TikTok. Oh my God.
Yeah, TikTok's a weird spot. But to answer John's question, if you follow me on social media, I usually plug where I'm speaking. Lately I've been, I do a lot of virtual stuff lately because everything's been, which I'm okay with, to be honest with you, because the virtual talk for me is easier, and I make the same amount of money if I'm driving an hour. So,
right.
So I usually post. Instagram is my prime account. I would follow me there on Instagram. But then, if you're out here on the East End, I'll be speaking at Uber Geek Brewing Company on July 8th at 7:00. So that's food truck, beer, and I'll be.
Dude, I highly recommend. That's a great night out because you're really interesting. You always pick great topics. You got the cool local brewery. You got the food truck. It's a really nice, time. And you're in agreement that climate change is all bullshit, right?
What's that?
I said you're in agreement that climate change is all bullshit, right?
No. I see it. I mean, there's things that
it drives me nuts. Why would you listen to a politician over a marine biologist and scientists? I don't get it. Scientists have their own spin and their own agendas. I'm not stupid. They're not pure. But at the very least, I will listen to scientists over politicians when it comes to global warming / climate change.
I think, you know what? In my experience from the people that have talked about climate change with, it's not that they don't believe climate change is happening. They don't believe that we could affect the climate. That's the difference. And that's been, and that's been my experience. It's not because a lot of the answers, well, we were in an ice age at one point of our career, of this Earth planet. Now we're in a heating stage, and you're right. That's definitely happening. But for me to step back, and I just look at a small scale, just look at small scale stuff that we do. We have we're out where I'm out on Shinnecock Bay. We get these brown tides and these rust tides. You go down to Florida, get these red tides, and you ask people right away, why are we getting these tides? And we're like, there's so many people putting fertilizers on their grass, septic water going into the ground, and it blooms these things. I'm like, so we can affect the whole Shinnecock Bay. That's just the population that lives on Shinnecock Bay. And if you expand that, to the world, I mean, you got billions of people. You don't think we're going to have some sort of impact when we're cutting down trees? I don't want to get any hate sent at me. I'm not a dirty hippie who's like, I fish, I hunt. I mean, there's stuff behind me that, it's just a matter of, using it and not abusing it. That's the difference,
I hear you. Well, you taught me another thing. I called you. You might remember this a couple summers ago. I'm like, Chris, I was swimming with my kids in the ocean. It was a calm day, and we're just kind of swimming around. The waves weren't too crazy, and we're just kind of chilling out. And all of a sudden, there was a tropical fish swimming around my leg. And I'm like, this can't be. We're on Long Island. The ocean only gets warm for what, 4 weeks, 5 weeks?
No, but that, hold
on. So I called you, and I'm like, Chris, is it possible that I'm seeing tropical fish off of Long Island? And take it from here.
So yeah, so that's what's funny about that is that actually has nothing to do with climate change. In fact,
there you go.
So I see less tropical fish than I used to when I was a kid. So the tropical fish, they drift here on the Gulf Stream. That's nature. Fish spawn, they release eggs and sperm into the water, things fertilize, and you get these little fish and they drift, and that's how they settle in new spots. The Gulf Stream is like a river of water. It comes out of the Caribbean. It comes up the coast. It's about 100 miles off of Montauk, and then it starts making a right, and it eventually ends up in Europe. And tropical fish would drift, and crabs and shrimp and all sorts of stuff. And you get these little eddies that break off, and they bring it inshore. That's all current-based. So as climate change, so people are like, no, that's been happening since the Atlantic Ocean was first formed. The problem we're seeing lately is when you have climate change, you get different weather patterns and different winds and stuff like that. So I've actually found less tropical fish in the last 5 or 6 years than I did when I was a kid. Because lately the wind is always southwest, it's coastal, it blows dirty Jersey water our way. Sorry, Jersey. As opposed to when it used it used to be southeast and blowing that clean Gulf Stream water with all this tropical fish. Now what we see, though, because of climate change, things like, go to my YouTube channel, look back last September. I posted a video. I was, 400 or 500 yards off of Ponquag Beach in Hampton Bays. And I was catching false albacore, which is a small tuna that you get inshore. And after I caught a bunch, I was like, I'm going to put the drone up. It'd be neat to see the action. And I get the drone up, and my jaw hit the bottom of the boat because there were 30 sharks. They were spinning with black tips. You can't tell unless you have one in your hand because they're very similar. But they were 8 to 10 feet long. There were 30 of them, only a couple hundred yards from the beach, ripping through bait fish. And that's not because of the Gulf Stream. That's because they're shifting north. So they're common in Jersey. Now they're starting to be common in Long Island, because things are warming up, they're shifting. But because of weather pattern changes, I'm not seeing the butterfly fish like I used to, and the groupers and the triggerfish and all that kind of stuff, because patterns are changing. So, like I said, I think that's been my experience with it. It's and it's an ugly topic, and I'll probably get some hate thrown at me for saying it, but it is what it is. You can't deny temperature. The planet is warming, whether you want to believe we have a factor in it or not. That's a different story altogether.
I believe we absolutely have a hand in this. Maybe not the whole thing, but we absolutely have a hand in it. Oh my God, we lost one of the regulars. They're like, global warming's not real, COVID's not real. It's just tyrant governments trying to control us. I'm out of here. Damn.
Hey, and like I said, you gotta take what you've been experienced with and go with you. That it's like I said, I work with people and I see numbers. You put a thermometer in the water. It's not difficult to do that.
I would just suggest that, but before you make your decision on that, you should maybe research a whole bunch of scientists that study this stuff as their entire careers instead of listening to some dopey politician telling you.
Sure, and I'm not going
shit.
And just like politics, there are scientists that have agendas also. I'm not going to say.
Of course, they're not perfect, obviously, yes, and some of the politicians use some of these dirty scientists to help them along. But
of course,
politicians aren't studying this shit.
No, but again, you gotta look at both sides and then make a decision on it. And like I said, to some people, they don't see an effect. But I look at things like the DDT with the osprey, like we talked about earlier. People back then were like, I hate mosquitoes. I want to. Who gives? They didn't see what was going to happen 30 and 40 years after that. It destroyed whole things. And in fact, if they were successful at killing mosquitoes, we'd be in a lot of freaking problems right now. As much as we hate mosquitoes, there are so many organisms that depend on mosquitoes. And if you were to eradicate mosquitoes, entire food chains would collapse, which would ultimately affect us. And people don't always see that part of it.
Did I ever tell you my mosquito story? So across the street is another body of water. And then in the summer, you get the sun setting all nice. This is what's so weird about living on the ocean. We don't get any mosquitoes.
Right.
We get mosquitoes maybe five days of summer, maybe. And that's when the air is so just stale and not moving at all, which is very rare. There's always a breeze coming off that ocean, which is nice. Cools everything down in the middle of the summer while everyone is dying of the heat. But you walk across the street to that other body of water, And a lot of people want to do that to watch the sun go down in the summer and get their lovely videos and pictures for their Instagram. We haven't done that in years, because as soon as you cross the street, you'll be eaten alive by mosquitoes, which is so weird. And when we have guests, we try to explain this to them, but they're on the beach, on the ocean side all day. They're not getting bitten at all. So they're like, there's no fucking bugs or mosquitoes around here. They cross the street to try to get the sunset picture, and they come back like, oh my God, I should have listened to you. They just got lumps all over their face. They get, you can't even count that high. It would take you a couple minutes to count all the bites they had, and they were only over there for 2 minutes trying to get a dumb sunset picture. It's crazy.
Yep. That's and what you're telling, but it's probably more of like a marsh. It's not probably open water. It's so that's breeding habitat for them. But again, all those birds that you see, they eat the mosquitoes. Then and then if you kill the mosquitoes and the birds die, then the things that eat the birds would die. And it's a food chain. Then there's so many fish that eat mosquito larvae, and like I said, the people don't realize the connection. And that's it's all, even those stupid sea robins. Without them, something else negatively gets affected, and it's so interconnected, and that's the biggest, and that's it's funny. It's like that everywhere on this planet. Every animal is dependent on something or has an effect on something else. Too often we think that we don't have an effect. We're outside of that. We're nature, man. We're part of nature. We're just a little bit higher up on the evolutionary line.
Well, first, though, she still says fuck mosquitoes. Yeah, fuck mosquitoes still, though. Yeah, well, man. We want to have a peaceful barbecue there, Chris.
Well, I mean, the one that I've had a hard time defending, but I have been able to defend it, was ticks. Everyone's like, all right, tell me what the hell we need ticks for, and there are a lot of birds and other animals that eat ticks. I mean,
but if they don't have ticks, they'll find something else to eat. There's plenty of stupid bugs. The bugs will be left when we ruin Earth.
Yeah, they'll be
bugs will survive, so fuck them. and ticks are scary, man. When you get a tick crawling on the back of your neck, which happened to me driving back to my house on that lonely country road, I almost drove off the road. I said this recently on the podcast. Ticks creep me out when they're crawling on your body, trying to find where they can latch on and give you that damn Lyme disease.
See, and I'm in the Pine Barrens, so unfortunately, ticks are a daily part of my life. I mean, I got tick bites pretty regularly. I get tested pretty regularly too. Knock on wood, I've been okay so far. But a good friend of mine just got diagnosed with alpha gal, which is the illness where you can't eat meat. So
how do you get that?
Ticks.
Ticks.
Yeah, and you get allergic to mammal meat, so beef, pork. For us that hunt squirrels and rabbits and deer and all that kind of stuff, you can eat chicken, you can eat fish, it's not a problem. But some cases, the alpha gal allergy gets so bad it could kill you.
I did not know that. I didn't need to know that.
Yeah, that's another one. Rocky Mountain fever. I mean, ticks carry so many diseases. It's not even funny.
But at least you can swim in the ocean, and nothing's really going to fuck you up in the ocean, right?
Sure.
We don't have those tiny little fish that swim up your pee hole on Long Island.
That's an Amazon fish.
All right, good. But we don't have that on Long Island, at least, right?
No, but and generally on Long Island we don't have any venomous fish, so you don't have to worry about getting. I take that back, because we do occasionally get scorpion fish in the summertime, and I would say we don't have any poisonous fish, but we do get some tropical puffers that'll kill you if you eat them. So. Yeah, I mean, we're not Australia where everything will kill you, But
those stupid pee hole fish, they're twisted, man.
Yeah.
They're twisted. Why do they decide they need to go up your pee hole? And then what happens? Do they start eating away?
They latch on, and it's surgery to remove it. It's not a good day.
God.
But things fill niches, There was obviously a niche there. There was no fish that were feeding on that part of an animal. And they say, hey, I'm going to take advantage of this.
That's crazy. All right, we've babbled enough. Oh, I want to see a couple things in your office there. So you got Emmy, the red-tailed hawk. I went hunting with her.
This was the first squirrel that she killed.
Oh, and you got the tail still.
A tree cut down by a beaver.
You saved that?
That's kind of cool. You got to remember, I do a lot of educational stuff, so this kind of comes in as a prop. And if something hits up, you can hit them with it. But I think, this was...
Wow, that's a rack.
So this is a moose antler.
I was going to say moose. Right on.
So my wife's family's got a cabin up in Maine, and we found this behind the cabin.
Really?
Yeah. One thing people don't realize with moose, deer, elk, they shed these every year. So they grow brand new antlers. Like right now, if you go down to your beach and you see any bucks, they're going to have small little fuzzy furry antlers. They call that velvet. By the end of August or September, they're fully grown, and what they'll do is they rub their antlers on a tree and scrape all that off.
Right.
It's all bloody and nasty, but it's hard and boned underneath it. And then they use that for trying to attract a mate, fight off other males. But deer do that, moose do that. So, yeah, this moose antler grew within a couple months, and then they drop it off.
I've never seen a moose, and I lived in Boston. We'd go up to New Hampshire and Vermont, and there's what's that road up there, the Kankamangas Highway? Have you ever heard of that place? And you check out the fall foliage, and as you're on this windy road, I guarantee they film a lot of TV commercials in that area. You know, when the leaves are just right, car commercials and whatnot. And you'll be driving along, mind your own business, peeking at the leaves or peeping at the leaves. And all of a sudden, everyone will pull over immediately and jump out of their cars because obviously somebody saw a moose as they're looking out the side window, and it's right off the highway. And then they run. And then I'm always the guy, I stop and it's too late. The moose is gone, and I've never seen one. But it's such a cock tease, man, with all these cars pulling off.
So we go up to the cabin every September. We got a bunch of us that go up there, and we spend the time up there. And again, we found that behind the camp. And I've never seen a bull, which is the male with the big antlers. I've seen cows. I've seen calves. I've never personally seen a bull, but most of our friends have never seen one. So we kind of joke around. They call them woodland unicorns because freaking thing doesn't exist. There's no such thing. But they're 1,000 pounds, and they could disappear into the woods without making a sound. It's just amazing.
Really? Yeah. How tall are they?
I mean, so my father-in-law, I used to have the old school full-size blazer, like the really tall one, and he has a picture of a bull moose standing next to his blazer, and it's the same height.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw elk in the whole rainforest. I got cocky, and they chased me. I was scared out of my mind. So the whole rainforest is up there on the Pacific Northwest outside Seattle, and it's a rainforest.
Yep.
And it's every color of green and blues that you'll ever see in your life. It's amazing to walk in the whole rainforest. And we're walking, and you have to try to climb over trees that fell down in the woods 200 years ago. I mean, you think your life means anything? Go into the whole rainforest, and you'll see these trees that fell 200 years ago minimum, with a giant tree growing out of the tree that is on the forest floor now, using that tree to nourish itself and grow. And that tree's been growing for the last 50, 60, 70 years. You're like, oh my God, my life means nothing. What am I doing?
Nothing.
So we're trying to climb over these giant trees. Takes a lot of effort because we're trying to get deeper and deeper into the whole rainforest. And my buddy, I did radio with him at WAAF, the only station that really rocks. He moved to Seattle, and we went to visit him. And all of a sudden, he's like, I think I see some elk. And he's trying to warn me because he's more of a nature guy, way more of a nature guy than me. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool, So I'm trying to get closer, and he's like, I wouldn't do that if I was you. I'm like, get out of here. Yeah, I just assume in nature most things are scared of you, and they're going to scatter. Man, this elk looked up and said, fuck you, and this thing started charging at me. I panicked, trying to get over these giant logs back into safety, and this thing is leaping them like they're nothing, man.
No, they're enormous.
And move.
Yeah, and their antlers are crazy. They're crazy long and spines. And
right.
That's a big animal, man.
I went from being so cocky to scared out of my mind within seconds. I'm like, okay, all right, nature doesn't fucking play, man.
Well, that's the thing, man. In the fall, those guys in the fall are really, their adrenaline's pumped up because they're trying to find some ass, so they're chasing anything they can.
Oh, dude.
And then you get the ones in the late fall or in early winter that get into the fermenting apples.
Yeah.
They get drunk.
Really?
Staggering and it's kind of crazy, man. It's pretty wild. They just chase anything they possibly can. And that's why, I mean, you notice out here when you're out where you guys driving around those back roads, early November, you'll see a lot of dead deer because the bucks are they're in rut and they're not even thinking. They're just chasing does and they run out into roads. They get whacked by cars. So that first, like, last week in October into like the second or third week in November, man, they are just one thing on their mind, man. They just run out in the roads. They get hit all the time. That's when you're going to see a spike of hits, you know.
I just learned something because I always wondered why there are so many deer that get hit by cars because they seem pretty smart and intelligent. I got 5 around this house, and I'm waiting for the day there's 4. And I'm like, all right, who's the mother effer that decided to take one of my deer out? Because now they feel like part of our environment out here. We see them almost every day as the sun's going down. And you'll watch them cross the street. They're pretty smart. You pretty much see them go like this, looking both ways. Like they know what they're doing. And then you see them dead all over the place. So that's because they're so crazed that they're just chasing tail.
During that time of year, yeah, that's when the antlers grow all summer. They eat and they do that stuff, and then when they shed that velvet, and then it starts to get a little cold, and the days get a little shorter. They get in the rut and they start chasing, and then I mean, I've been in the woods. I'll never forget this day. I'm sitting here and I'm just standing there and I see this doe running at me. And she's bouncing and she sees me and she flies over that way. And I'm like, what the? And I look and there's this buck with his big antlers and he's running and his tongue is hanging out. And he ran right at me. He was like 5 feet from me. And he's like, and he's wagging it. He's huffing and puffing. He's like, he didn't even see me. He didn't care that I was there. And he's like, oh, there she is. And he went right after. He did not even, no idea that I was there, you know. But they do that and the doe runs across the road and he's like, oh. And then.
That's awesome. All right, listen, Chris, I got your big plug on the big screen there.
Yeah, FishGuyPhotos on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Vimeo, TikTok. It's the same thing, but I like Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time.
All right, Chris, thank you so much.
Hey, man, thank you.
Got the plug, blah, blah, blah. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, let's do sharks, man. Sharks soon. Like probably.
Next one is sharks, hopefully in a couple
of June,
weeks.
I'm thinking. End of June, early July. We'll pick a day. We'll go catch some sharks and get your hands on a shark and tag it and do all that kind of fun stuff.
We'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon, man. We'll do some fishing or something before that. So
the shark thing, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be good stuff.
All right, there goes Chris, FishGuyPhotos on all the socials, Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. Guys, have a great weekend. We'll see you hopefully on Monday morning. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the support. If you gave me a few bucks, I really appreciate that. Keeps me motivated to turn this damn thing on. And what else? No plugs. That's it for the plugs. Get a shirt. OpieRadio.com. What the hell?
Boo, 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 boo. Opie Radio. Boo, 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 boo. Boom, 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 boom. Boo, 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 boo. Boo, 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 boo.
I started over.
I started with a vision.
I started strong.
I got a new job that pays well and that I actually enjoy in just 6 months.
I always wanted to go into healthcare, and Austin Community College has one of the best nursing programs in the nation.
I built my foundation at ACC, and now I'm a Longhorn at the University of Texas at Austin.
What's your next step? Austin Community College can help you get there.
Registration is going on now at austincc.edu. Start here, get there.